is time to put on my professor hat and hand out some grades. What is going on, y'all? Faiz Sports Talk back at it with another video talking, of course, some NFL here to talk about the Chicago Bears. So if you're a Bears fan, make sure you go ahead and you are subscribed to the channel. What are you doing? Make sure you go ahead and do so. Hit that big red subscribe button. And with that being said, follow me, guys, on my social media. All of the links are in the description. You can find them. Okay, with that being said, here to give you guys my thoughts on the Bears draft and actually put some grades to each of the draft picks. Now, I did a little bit of a quasi version of this. Obviously, I went live for the draft, and then I gave my thoughts on each of the picks, okay? But I didn't really, give it a solid draft grade. Now I've had a little bit of time to let things sort of digest, if you will. And so I'm, kind of taking this from that angle. And you know what? Now I'm ready. I'm ready now to give a draft grade for each of the picks. I've had time to go over everything. So with that being said, I also did a full roster analysis of the Bears, post free agency, post NFL draft. So you guys can go check that out in my recent videos. But with that being said, I'm going to give a draft grade here for each of the picks that the Bears had in the 2020 NFL draft. So let's get started. Okay, just want to quickly preface something before I show my grades, which is we're going off a normal grading scale, A, B, C, D, and F. Okay, I'll add plus and minuses when applicable. But I mean, you really have to screw up to get an F. So I just wanted to point that out there. But with that being said, let's get into it. So we'll start with the first two picks the Bears had in this year's draft in the second round because they didn't have a first round pick. And that was tight end Cole Kmet out of Notre Dame that they took at 43 and cornerback Jaylen Johnson out of Utah that they took at pick 50. So how do I feel about these two picks? What grades would I give them? And with tight end Cole Kmet, I will say this. I have warmed up to this pick. Initially, the reason I had a little hesitancy with this pick was I thought they were going to go the DB route. I thought they were going to go cornerback or safety. There were a lot of good ones on the board. And so that is what I had thought. But I knew this, and I let you guys know because Cole Kmet was one of the players that I was looking at in my mock draft, that if they were going to go offense, that it was going to be tight end as opposed to any other positions, maybe besides offensive line. But tight end is what I thought the Bears were going to do, and we got the best tight end by far on the board. I mean, there was no debate. Cole Kmet is up here, and every other tight end in this draft was down here. So we got the best player at the best position. The only issue I have with the pick, and it's not even Cole Kmet's fault, is that damn Jimmy Graham signing. Because Jimmy Graham signing means that Cole Kmet isn't, and I hope I'm wrong about this, isn't going to get as much playing time as I want him to. Because, again, I hope Matt Nagy uses a lot of two tight end sets for getting Cole Kmet involved. But, if he doesn't, it's going to be Jimmy Graham being our starter. We know that, okay? There's no ifs, ands, buts about it. Can Cole Kmet beat him out? Sure, but they're paying Jimmy Graham a lot of money to play football, and they're going to play him. So that's what I don't like is you got your first pick, and I want him to get as much playing time as possible, and that's not really going to happen as much as I'd like to because of the fact that, again, we have Jimmy Graham. So that's one thing. And then the other thing, too, is did I feel like tight end was our biggest need? I'm close. Again, you could argue offensive line. You could say cornerback, safety. And so to me, because we had signed Jimmy Graham, even though I wasn't a huge fan of the signing, and because we have like 10 tight ends on the roster, I had bumped tight end down a little bit. So to me, because of all those reasons, I'm going to give the Cole Kmet pick an A-. That is how I feel about the pick now. I love, though, his potential. He's going to be an absolute stud, and hopefully he gets a lot of playing time, and he's our tight end of the future. I feel very confident about that. Let's move on to cornerback Jaylen Johnson, who was a bit of a surprise here. The guys I was looking at was guys like Trayvon Diggs. I was looking at other cornerbacks at this position. And Jaylen Johnson really is a guy that fell because of multiple surgeries. He's got an injury history, and so to his demise, he kind of dropped. He had a first round grade, and I think that's why a lot of people didn't have him in a lot of mock drafts going high. And so with Jaylen Johnson, though, the tape doesn't lie. This kid, if he stays healthy, he's going to be an absolute stud, and that's the best thing about him. And he addresses a need. We definitely needed a cornerback, and that was arguably our biggest need. And so obviously I believe he's going to be our starting cornerback opposite Kyle Fuller now. So to me, I love that. I love his potential. The downside is injury history. And then, of course, the other cornerbacks that you could have potentially gotten at this position that, could potentially be better. Jeremy Chin is another guy, but again, to me, when we're just talking cornerbacks, Trayvon Diggs actually want to pick right after him. Okay, right after him. But you could have gotten safety, you could have gotten cornerback. They went cornerback, didn't have an issue with that. So to me, I did like the Jaylen Johnson pick. And if he stays healthy, I give this pick an A. Okay, so now let's move on to the later rounds and talk about the rest of the draft picks. So the Bears, in the rest of the draft, they took in the 5th round defensive end Travis Gibson, cornerback Kindle Vildor, wide receiver Darnell Mooney, and then in the 7th round, they took 2 offensive linemen in Arlington Hambright and Latavius Simmons, okay? So this is what they did the rest of the draft, and let's obviously start at the top with Travis Gibson, who to me, as far as, the scouting report on him, he had a 3rd-round grade, but he did obviously fall in the 5th round. And he's got potential as a defensive end, as a edge rusher. He is raw, but he is very explosive. So you like that. But the fact is, this was a position of strength. Now, you could say you can never have enough edge rushers. I get the argument here. But here's the thing to me. There were offensive linemen on the board at this point. Offensive line, you could argue, was our biggest need, right? The run blocking last year was horrendous. Okay, David Montgomery couldn't find any holes. And even the pass blocking, if Nick Foles ends up being our quarterback this year, who is less mobile than Mitchell Trubisky, it isn't very good. Okay, it's decent, but it isn't very good. And so offensive line, especially right guard, with the retirement of Kyle Long, was a need. Okay, and the Bears had guys. A guy that I like, Nitain Muti, was on the board at this point, okay? John Runyon, another offensive lineman, was on the board at this point. They actually went in the 6th round, but you could have taken some offensive linemen. And I know the Bears drafted offensive linemen in the 7th round. I'll get to them in a second. But the fact remains is, I believe you reached for a guy that you really didn't need as much as the other ones. Now, do you take best player available? It depends. But to me, again, as far as, the grade he has, NFL.com, it looks at him as a boom or bust prospect, and that's kind of how I view it as well. So this could go really well or it could go really bad, might not be anything in between. And so because of that, because of that reason, I will give this pick a C+. Okay? C+, because again, I believe we had better needs. Could have drafted a safety here. Could have drafted, again, we did quarterback, could have drafted offensive line, but they went defensive end. So there you have it. That's how I feel about it. Let's move on to cornerback Kindle Vildor from Georgia Southern. Okay, he's a good cornerback, and he definitely now adds to a position that was previously a weakness, and now we're starting to get some depth here. Okay, you got obviously Jaylen Johnson, the draft pick. You've got Kyle Fuller. You've got Artie Burns, a free agent signee. You've got, other guys as well after the loss of Prince Amukamara. So you like that. But as far as his scouting report, he's got a backup grade, and that's really how I'm viewing him at. Again, didn't address safety, so got to dock a couple points here. But again, you're adding depth. I don't hate that. So I will say this grade for the cornerback position, Kindle Vildor for the Bears, I'm going to give it a B. Okay? Let's move on to wide receiver Darnell Mooney, who to me, I like this pick. I like this pick because we needed a wide receiver and we needed a wide receiver with speed, okay? And boy, is he fast. He is blazing fast, great after the catch, can line up on either side or outside or inside. He played, a lot at Tulane and was fantastic there. And so I like him as the Taylor Gabriel replacement, okay? So to me, I like the fact that they met a need, got exactly the type of receiver, because it wasn't just a receiver, it was a speedy receiver. You like that. And so because of that reason, I'm going to give this pick a B+. Okay, so I'm going to give it a B+. And now finally we get to the offensive linemen, okay? And you know what? I'm going to give them both the same grade because here's why. Both were unranked. Again, we're talking about the 7th round here, and we're at the 7th round, even past the 5th, 6th round. It's pretty much a crapshoot, really. So 7th round, this is when you went for your need. this time you went for your knee. So who knows if these guys even make an impact or even play, or because obviously if you get drafted in the 7th round, there's a very less chance that you are actually going to be impactful. So to me, I have no choice but to give this a poor grade. The only reason I'll give it a plus is because they drafted offensive linemen, but I have to give both of them a C+. Okay, so I'm going to have to give both of them a C+ here, and so that is how I feel about it. Again, too little, too late for drafting offensive linemen. You could have had them in the 5th round, just one of them. We had 3 5th-round picks. We traded up for a 5th-round picks. Now, again, do the Bears feel confident enough that, new offensive line coach Juan Castillo is going to be able to just take last year's, group and work wonders with them? Maybe, but if it doesn't happen, what's the first thing you're going to say? We should have drafted offensive linemen. And I know we picked some up in free agency, and Jermaine Afidi and Jason Spriggs, but they're not that great. I'm sorry, they're just not. And so to me, I believe that was the missed opportunity here for the Chicago Bears is they went for offensive linemen, but too little too late, and protection is huge, folks. What's the point of having a tight end like Cole Kmet if you can't get the damn ball out because the quarterback is getting sacked? What's the point if you can't run the football and the defense knows you're going to pass every play? So to me, that is going to be the key here, and that's one thing I wish the Bears addressed better in the NFL draft. And the other thing is safety. We still didn't draft a safety. We don't have a starting safety. Now, you could say Deion Bush could be that guy. But again, a missed opportunity here to have that safety. And so we didn't even draft one, okay? We drafted 2 cornerbacks, not even 1 safety. So to me, those 2 things, I got to dock the Bears grade a little bit for that, for sure. I have to. And so now that we have all the grades, you guys can see obviously how I feel about all those picks. But now let's talk about and give the overall draft a grade now. So the Bears overall draft grade is, and I wish I could get like a drum roll over here. Dun, 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 B-. That is my overall draft rate for the Bears, folks. And here's the thing. Okay. This is actually, I'm being pretty generous. I've looked at a lot of analysts and what they've given the Bears. A lot of them have given the Bears C's, C+, C-. They haven't liked it. Here's my rationale. Again, back to the point of safety and offensive line. Didn't address those positions. But here's the thing with the draft. We know, and I just mentioned this, besides the first 3 rounds, the draft's a crapshoot, right? It's very hard to find, gems from the 4th round till the 7th round. And so if the Bears' first 2 picks in Cole Kmet and Jaylen Johnson turn out to be studs, and I believe they will, then the rest of the draft, it won't matter as much because they'll pick it up for all of them. So to me, the impact the first 2 picks are going to have, to me, just propels the draft grade. Because to me, the rest of the picks weren't that impressive in the 5th to the 7th round. But the first 2 picks I really like. And so that's why I'm going to give the Bears a B- for the overall draft grade. So let me know what you guys think. Leave a comment down below if you agree with me or disagree with me. What grade? Give me an overall grade for the Bears draft. And if you want to give me a grade for every one of their draft picks, go right ahead. I want to hear that as well. So as always, thanks for watching. I'll talk to you guys soon.